I'm Justin Freemyer, and I started my journey in the world of professional wrestling in 2006 as a referee. I've done almost everything but wrestle a match. After a long hiatus, I now have the chance to interview some of Arizona's up-and-coming wrestlers as I go with them beyond the top rope.
Fuck it, I'm laying the world now, or my world.
We stole the show in Benson. Remember Benson?
Cheers to a good interview.
Hello and welcome to Beyond the Top Rope. I'm Justin Freemyer, and we're going to get into a no-holds-barred interview with Arizona's biggest and brightest wrestling superstars. And my first guest needs no introduction. He is Pete the Heat Petroselli.
How are you, Justin?
I am great. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good, man. I'm doing pretty good. It's been a long time.
It's been a very long time.
I know. I'm glad. I appreciate you having me.
Well, thanks for being here. Yeah, it's the first time I'm doing this, so I'm excited. So give us growing up, what was it like for you growing up? Tell us a little bit about the background of Pete the Heat Petroselli.
Okay, so I grew up in Eastchester, New York. It's a little town about 5 minutes from the Bronx, north of the Bronx. Grew up there 23 years of my life, played sports, went to school, played football, I wrestled, and I played baseball, but I didn't play baseball for the school.
Okay.
I played in a rec league.
How did the wrestling bug bite you?
Okay,
How old were you?
Captain Lou Albano was a very, very close family friend growing up my whole life. He actually grew up with my grandfather in the same home. Yeah, Lou Albano lived above him.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
When was this? Like what time?
1950 something.
Oh wow, so way before.
And then actually they all went to the Korean War together. And both my grandfathers and Captain Lou, they all bunked together. And then actually when I would go to the barbecues when I was a kid, because my grandfather passed away when I was 5 and 6, Captain Lou would be there.
Oh really?
So they would always be like wrestling. And I always, I would watch it with my family, but also my upstairs neighbors, when they would babysit me and my parents would go out, the woman was a massive wrestling fan.
Gotcha.
So she always had tapes. Like I remember the first match I ever saw was Rugged Ronnie Garvin versus...
I like him.
He was good, versus Greg the Hammer Valentine in that figure 4 leg lock match.
It was a Royal Rumble 1990. I'm marked 3,000 people.
Oh, was that it?
Yeah, it was a submission match. And I liked it because Tony Schiavone was on commentary.
Yes.
And I like Tony Schiavone. I love his podcast. He is one of the funniest people in wrestling. Who were your influences growing up? Who did you like?
Oh my God, I was a massive Hulk Hogan fan. And then I went right into The Undertaker. So I swear it's funny, I feel like the day Undertaker beat Hogan was when I switched. I just became a big Undertaker fan. I've been an Undertaker fan ever since. But I'm also a big Kurt Angle fan.
He is my favorite wrestler.
Yeah, he is just the real deal, bro. I'm sorry, there's been a lot of real deal guys like Chris Benoit. Yeah, I know he's a controversial name to throw out there, but I don't care. His work was the real deal. Yeah, his work was the real deal. Kurt Angle's work is the real deal. Brock Lesnar's work was the real deal. The only thing is I do like early year Lesnar more than I do later year Lesnar.
One of my favorite matches with Lesnar was his Iron Man match with Kurt Angle on SmackDown.
Yes.
I love the way that he would sacrifice a fall just to get another fall.
And you know how that was a great match? I just heard about it the other day. You know why it was so good? Kurt Angle's sister passed away before that match. So he said that what he would do is when he had a tragedy in his life, he would train and wrestle much harder to make up for that tragedy.
That's why I think he's the greatest ever in my personal opinion.
He probably is. I can't say he's not, because he's just the real deal and he could talk everything.
When you broke into the wrestling business, were you trained very old school? How was your training?
I was.
What brought you to be a wrestler?
Actually, what happened was when I lived in New York, I went to IWF in Jersey, and what happened was they were just charging too much money. I couldn't stick with it. So I walked in, I trained for about 3 weeks, to a month, I'd say, around a month, I'll say. And then I did not like Bone Crusher Fred Sampson, who, AKA Darren Young.
Yeah,
I didn't like him. He was a prick, and I was just like, this guy is such a prick. And it kind of just I was like, I don't want to deal with this shit every day, you know what I mean? But
I ran into those.
I was young, and then I moved to Arizona like a year and a half after that. So once I moved, I was like, I got to conquer this pro wrestling stuff. And what happened was I saw Graves at a club. And when I saw him at a club, he said, hey, let me introduce you to the promoter and the trainer. So I was like, okay. So I got introduced to Lawrence and Brian Barnett. And they were like, hey, come on down for training. And then the rest is history.
Did you do any yarder
stuff?
stuff?
Yes, I did. I don't like to admit it, but I did. I mean, we were young.
Like, tell me, what's the craziest thing you did as a yarder?
I jumped off the roof onto my buddy Kevin, who was laying on a wood board that we put up with 2 horses. Like, you know, the horse things that cut wood?
Yeah.
I think they're called horses. And we put this big board of wood and we stacked chairs on it. And I laid him on it and I went on his roof and jumped off. That's probably the craziest thing I ever done. I wasn't like into that.
Did you guys have like storylines and stuff?
Yeah, we had storylines.
We did too. We had that's how I got discovered.
Like this one was sleeping with this one's sister, so he wants to fight this one. You know.
Did you have music in the fog and all that stuff?
Oh yeah.
The bells and whistles and everything.
Yeah, all that stuff.
That's how we did it. I mean, and that's how I was at a video store. And a promoter was like, hey, Rising Phoenix Wrestling, RPW. I don't know if you ever heard of them.
Yeah, I've heard of them.
But they were like, hey, you know, we're looking for referees. And that's how I got in. And it was just funny how backyard wrestling, it's such a no-no.
It's a no-no.
Yeah, like, don't do backyard wrestling, people.
Don't do backyard wrestling.
It's dangerous.
Well, if you're an adult doing backyard wrestling, you got problems. If you're a kid, you love the business, we totally get it.
Did you ever injure yourself really bad doing backyard wrestling?
No, not in backyard wrestling.
How long did you do it for?
2 years probably.
2 years?
Yeah, Graves did it with me. So don't let him tell you anything different. You did it with me, little son.
He's throwing you under the bus, Graves.
I did. But yeah, we were kids though.
It's that Jets.
Well, Joe wrestled with me too, so we would go to wrestling practice, and then after wrestling practice, we'd all get together and do backyard wrestling on the weekends, and then we did a talent show at school. Tore the roof off the place.
What, did you do a wrestling match at the talent show?
We did. It was basically it was like a 7-man Royal Rumble. And it was like, you didn't have to throw, there was no ring. They laid the mats out. And we just had one big Royal Rumble match. And guys, you get pinned, you're out. You get pinned, you're out.
Did you start with all the people in the ring, or was it timed in intervals?
It was timed. We had like little spots and everything. Like my friend ran up the wall and did like a diamond cutter and shit and like stuff like that. And
what was your finishing move as a yarder?
A stunner.
Stunner?
Yeah, because I was small, fat. You know,
that's
so
funny
my
because I
fat
had one
ass
too.
could only do the stunner, which I still kind of do today as like not a false finish, but because you know moves are starting to change in wrestling too now. So it's like you could sometimes get away with doing some moves that you probably shouldn't do.
Look at what the DDT that used to be a finisher, and now it's a transition.
Yep.
In a match, and it's crazy how moves have evolved over time.
It is.
It's kind of sad though. It kind of takes away the science of everything.
You're right. It does take away the science of everything. It really does, you know, and like that's the one thing that I'm not going to be one of those guys that's going to be like, oh, the wrestling business is getting killed, it's going to die. No, it's going to,
evolving.
It's evolving. Some of the classic matches were like just when guys brawl with each other.
Yeah.
And you think and you're like, wow, those guys, they just like a Matt Hardy Edge SummerSlam 05, like something like that, where maybe they're working us, but you think they got some real heat, so they're really giving it to each other out there.
Yeah.
That's what like gets people into it, you know.
Well,
but if you start seeing guys like walking up to the top rope holding each other's hands, okay, I'll protect you, you protect me, let's do a backflip together. What the hell is that?
Yeah,
You're going to do that in a real fight? Hey,
No.
let me hold your hand. Let's do a backflip to make the crowd think we're fucking awesome. Like, it just doesn't, I don't know.
And you get that overplayed chant, this is awesome. I'm just like.
It's so overplayed. No, the thing is, I love that. I love when, but it's got to really
a live
be
show,
awesome.
It's got to be genuine.
Genuine.
And authentic.
Authentic. Not like the guy did a high spot so you have to cheer even though it like wasn't that much of an impact or something like that, you know?
Say your favorite time in the wrestling business was? Like time frame. Who was on top? What was going on?
Okay, I would have to say like, I love the end of 96 to 99. And then not that it died out for me, it didn't. I'm like one of those guys that never missed a pay-per-view or a Monday Night Raw in my entire life, you know? So like, I feel like from late 96 to 99 was great. And then once the 2000s hit, I feel like it kind of got stale a little bit. But then once like 2000, the end of 01 came and 2002 to 04, it was just like hot again, you know? It was just like, wow, or 05 I'll give it. But then in 05, a lot of people left.
But 05 was a great year.
It was great. It was like,
I went to a lot of wrestling shows.
In 05?
Yeah.
Yeah, I went 05, 06, I went to a lot of shows too.
I mean, I've been to many WrestleManias. Have you ever been to like a WrestleMania? Or?
I did. I went to 20.
I was at 22.
Oh, no.
I was way up in the nosebleeds. I remember I had tears in my eyes because it was Madison Square Garden.
Yeah,
And I was like, it was one of the coolest experiences in my life.
And
it's
how
crazy,
great was that?
because I've been to 16, I've been to 17, I've been to 18, I've been to all these other WrestleManias, but it's so tough to pick a favorite. It really is.
It is. 20 was great, though.
Oh, yeah.
20 could probably be one of the best WrestleManias.
Yeah.
You know?
What was your favorite match on the card?
I don't know. There was a couple. I mean, I loved Eddie and Angle.
That would be my choice.
The main event was awesome, too.
Told a good story.
It did, you
Yeah.
know. The Jericho-Christian match.
That was another one. What was your first ever, speaking of wrestling events, what was your first one that you ever went to?
I went to a show in 1993 at the Westchester County Center. Well, actually, my first ever show, I was 5 years old, but it was an Eastern Championship Wrestling show, which was the ECW.
Yep.
But it was before Extreme Championship Wrestling.
Yeah.
This was like 92.
Yeah.
So I went there and I saw Captain Lou was on the card because he was the one that got us the tickets. And it was at Mount Vernon High School. So it was right down the street from my house. I got to see Captain Lou again, Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff. Like, I went backstage and got to meet these guys. There was some big tag team that was there too that I'm pretty sure, I don't know who they were. They were just these big ass blonde guys, bro. It could have been the Nasty Boys. I'm not sure.
I think they were in WCW or
At that
WWE
time,
at the
right?
time. No, WWE, because I know in
Yeah, 92.
92, 93. They went to WCW at the end of 93, I want to say. Somewhere in there.
Well, yeah, maybe Paul Heyman was there.
No,
You know, so it was like stuff like that. But like, I don't really remember that too much. But then a year later, I went to, and then I'll never forget, I watched the opening match was Tatanka versus Damien Demento.
Really?
Remember the guy that would talk
Yep.
to the devil? So, and Tatanka went over because he was having that undefeated streak and everything. But that was the first WWE match I ever saw live.
What was the main? Do you remember the main?
Oh my God, it was, I don't remember the main. It had to do with something with like either Luger or Bret Hart. Because they would come back to the county center every couple months. So I know I remember one main event was Bret Hart and Luger versus Yoko and Owen.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we had some pretty solid matches at the county center that I got to see. Like one time we had like Razor Ramon in a cage. And it was like Ramon and like
Jeff Jarrett or something?
Or no, like Hunter Hearst Helmsley, like when he first started. But this was later on. This was like 90, 95 maybe. We had something like that. I'm just trying to remember. There was so many matches, dude. But you know what came around a lot was a lot of the indie promotions like WXW, like Alpha and Sika, the Wild Samoans. So I went to a lot of their shows. And we got to, you know, you get to meet and greet in the beginning, but it was different. Meet and greets, nowadays you have to buy extra tickets and do all that. Then you just show up. The wrestlers all sit in a big circle around the ring. They sign your autograph, you go meet everyone, and then you go watch the show, and then after the show, the stars come out to sign autographs. And then you can either meet them. I was so mad because I waited hours for Bam Bam Bigelow's autograph, and he opened the locker room door, told us all, back the F up, grabbed my friend's notepad, signed it, gave it back to my friend, and shut the door. And I was like, damn it, we waited hours for Bam Bam's autograph, you know?
Talk about you getting in the business and everything, and like, how was training like? Like, how was...
It was rough in the beginning.
Paint us a picture of what that was like on a daily basis.
On my first day?
Yeah.
My first day I got there and I was pretty much, you know, I told them, hey, I did this for a month, like about a year and a half ago. They didn't even give a shit. They were like, okay, whatever. So what they did was they just bumped me. I got in there, they bumped me. I took like, oh my God, probably like 40 bumps, body slams, suplexes. Let's see if he can run the ropes and take a back elbow and just stuff like that. The next day, I couldn't get out of bed. And I had to get up and go to work, you know, because at the time I had my own pool business with my friend. I literally got up and I was like, oh my God, I can't get out of bed right now. Like my back was so tight, everything was so sore. I had bruises on my back from running the ropes because my first day they made me run the ropes. So all I did was take bumps and run the ropes. Then I think after the first week, they told me about the graduation bump is when you have to stand on the top rope, close your eyes, and just fall backwards on your back. And that is so scary when you're not used to that. So I remember I did it and, you know, I got through it and stuff, but it was brutal. Like, I don't want to scare anyone because the thing is, if you stick with it, you'll be okay. But wrestling in the beginning will beat you up, man. Your body gets beat up, but your body gets used to it too. Once your body's used to it, you're good.
One of the first match I saw you wrestle in was a street fight with Triple X Lawrence Tyler at CWFA.
I remember that.
In South Scottsdale.
So that match, it's been a little bit of time, but at that time we started our feud because I punched his girlfriend in a match, and he wasn't too happy about it. But I mean, I told him when we get in the ring, it's not gonna be too fun. Like, I'm not gonna sugarcoat or be easy. I'm gonna go after it. I see red, you know.
Yeah.
He didn't like that, so we started our feud. We had a match that he went over on, or he beat me for a TV taping. So they wanted us to do a street fight, and in that street fight, I thought it was just orchestrated beautifully. Like, I don't know what we didn't even really. You know how wrestling is. We just went out there and did our thing.
Yeah, and you took some sick bumps.
Oh, yeah.
I think you went through fire, if I remember.
Oh, that was the flaming table match.
Yeah, or maybe I'm having the matches mixed up, but that's what I remember.
The flaming table one?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, that was after the street fight.
Okay, so looking at your career, and I know we're bouncing around quite a bit, but tell us about your first match that you had in the wrestling business. What was that like? Describe it to me.
So the tag match with John Lyon, I tagged with John. I came in as the cameraman, basically like...
mean chops.
Yeah, for real, mean chops. Like, your nipples smoke after that. So basically, there was Julian and Joe were Twisted Steel Sex Appeal, and they were picking on the camera guy, and John Lyon comes out to make the save, but then it turns into a tag match. And I just went in the ring, got my ass beat for a little bit, and I took like a submission, and they called it ding, ding, ding. That was like my first match in the business, pretty much. Then I had a singles match against, oh my God, I think it was against Graves at the Boys and Girls Club. And I just remember I was like, okay, even though I had trained for a while and conditioned and everything, that was my first real experience when I was like, oh my God, my lungs were like on fire. And I was like, I gotta get into practice and do a lot more conditioning and just like get my lungs in shape. And once I got my lungs and my conditioning in shape, it's easier for you to think about what your next move is gonna be and how you're gonna communicate in there and stuff like that. So once I learned that, that's when I started to switch up my wrestling a little bit.
How long did that take you to get your timing going in a match?
Dude, I couldn't even do a universal spot for 6 months. Then I walked into practice one day and it just clicked. And after that, I learned how to I'm not gonna say I'm Mr. Call matches on the fly, but I started to teach myself how to call matches on the fly a little bit because I couldn't remember people's spots. So I was like, I gotta do this. If I can't remember these guys' spots, we're gonna have to somehow figure this shit out and do it this way, you know?
Yeah.
But now it's a little easier for me, like, cause all these guys, they wanna do like, duck this, spin kick, duck, flip this, and it's like, why are we doing all that, you know? Like, and for me, I can't remember all that shit. So I tried to train myself to learn how to wrestle by read and react, you know? And I feel like you get more of a realism from that.
Yeah,
you know
it's more real. It's more authentic.
Authentic, yeah. You don't want to look like you and somebody planned it out in the back.
No, there's got to be emotion. The fans got to buy it. If they don't buy it, there's going to be no reaction, and you're pretty much done. So how many matches under your belt? Like how long? Like
I've been doing it for 10 years.
10 years.
So I don't know, man. Maybe 100. I don't even count like that. I've probably had a couple hundred matches, I would say. Maybe more. Who knows? I've had so many matches that I've never even seen on tape. You know, like I try to follow my own stuff, and sometimes they don't put the content out there because they got other stuff going on. So I mean, I've probably had a lot of matches. You know, I've wrestled in Mexico and stuff like that. I got to wrestle in El Paso, which I was excited about because the Guerrero family's from El Paso. So.
What was your favorite spot that you ever wrestled at?
Hermosillo, Mexico.
Oh, wow. What was that like, wrestling in Mexico?
If I didn't have children, I would move to Mexico, and you'd never see my face again.
What about Mexico?
I just loved it. I love the culture. I love the way, like, it's like you think America's all about freedom. Bro, Mexico is living free. Like, you could just have a good time there. You know what I mean? Like, they're all about like, you know, street fairs and everybody's eating and having fun. And you go to church Sunday morning and then you go to Lucha Libre after church. Like that's their tradition. Like that's my type of stuff right there, you know? And I just loved it. I loved being there. They treated me so good.
How was the language barrier? Was there much of a challenge?
It was, but actually communicating in the ring, no, it just flowed perfectly. Like we had a really good match in Mexico. It was Team USA versus Team Mexico. and we opened the show, and it was great. It went perfect. Like, they loved it. The crowd loved it. The mayor loved it because the mayor put the show on.
Oh,
it was
nice.
just really good stuff. And that's when I was like, I'm happy. Like, I'm proud about that, you know? And that was just like one of my favorite experiences in wrestling.
How do you feel how important the opening match is to a card?
I feel like it's important. It sets the tone for the night. If you have a match that if you open the show and the match blows, you're probably going to kill the crowd for the rest of the night. You know what I mean? But if you have an explosive opener, even if it's quick, if it's explosive and keeping people on their feet in the beginning, then you set the tone for the night. You know what I mean? So I think it's very important.
I think it's just as important as closing the show, in my personal opinion.
Exactly.
Because people are going to remember how it started and how it ended.
Exactly.
In between, you really got to...
Something's really got to stand out.
You got to sizzle some way.
Exactly.
You got to make a splash.
And that's the point of the show. You want to build it.
Yeah.
You know, but sometimes, you know, it may not go that way, you know, but
sometimes
you really got to open it up good. You got to open it up good and you got to close it good at least, you know. Well, it should always be good no matter what, but at least you got to have a solid open and a solid close, you know.
What would you say is one of the biggest challenges you encountered in the wrestling business?
Size and my body. My whole life, I never really had a nice body. Even when I wrestled in high school and lost 30 pounds in 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks, I never had a six-pack. And it wasn't that I didn't work out. Maybe I was working out wrong. Who knows? But I worked out with guys that said I was doing it right, like my football trainer and my wrestling trainer. So, but I just felt like I always had that flabby Italian body.
Yeah.
You know, so I just was like, well, who cares? I'll roll with it. Instantly, someone looks at me in the wrestling business, they laugh. You know?
Yeah, I'm sure you dealt with that quite a bit.
Let me perform for you. You know what I mean? Not to be cocky. I'm like, all right, my size sucks, but let me at least show you what I'm doing.
You've got charisma up to
you got to have charisma at least.
I think that's huge in the wrestling business.
It's
huge. If you don't have charisma and you can't talk, then, I mean, you're
doomed.
Well, in-ring work could help, but it only goes so far.
That's true.
You got to have the intangible it factor,
exactly.
as they say, and I think that's something you definitely have.
I appreciate
especially in your interviews, your energy. I remember when I was not even part of the wrestling business, I was just watching the show, and I just remember I'm like, this Pete the Heat's really got people going. He's got the crowds roaring. I mean, people were paying their money to see you get your ass kicked by Triple X Lawrence Tyler.
They were.
And I think.
And we stole the show in Benson. Remember Benson?
I was a ring announcer.
And that night, I will definitely take credit for. Not me take credit. Me and Tony. I wrestled Tanya Travis at the time, who was also known as Black Widow, I think, or something. No,
yeah.
Mystique. I'm sorry.
Mystique. And now
we stole that show. I don't care what anybody says. Y'all can kiss my ass. We stole that show. That crowd was absolutely ballistic by the end of that.
That's a fun place to work with Benson.
It was so fun
because they had the big screen. Remember
that?
I remember seeing myself on the big screen. I'm like, this is real. This is legit.
That was legit. They put a lot of money into that. The guy who ran that show, Bruce.
Yep.
Great guy.
Hey, Bruce.
Bruce, if you see this, you're a great guy. I wish to work with you in the future, man. I miss you. He was great to work for.
How important is respect in the business?
It's very important. You could tell when someone doesn't respect you. Like right now, I've wrestled with some guys for years and they don't respect me, and that's cool. That's their fucking problem. I don't care. I'm not the type of guy that's like, well, you're gonna have to respect me. If you don't respect me, cool. I just won't probably talk to you or respect you back, you know? And the thing is that I don't try to like gain respect in a piece of crap way. I try to do it in a good way where it's like I want to be fair and I want to do the right thing and I want to work the right way and gain my respect that way. You know, I know we all make mistakes in life that may.
We're human.
You know, we're human, exactly. So, I've seen guys make little mistakes that have completely ruined their fucking reputation, and I just think that's so unacceptable. I'm just like. And no one even knows the real story. Like, why are they blackballing this guy? Or why, I've seen that. And I'm just like, so right now, I just mind my P's and Q's. I show up, I do my thing, and I go home after.
Yeah.
I was burnt out, working a job, taking care of 2 kids, wrestling every weekend. I just and then it started becoming like stupid. And I was just like, and politics. I started wrestling, politics and wrestling the same guy every week. And it's like, I don't want to do this shit if it's going to be like this. So I stepped out for a little bit. I shouldn't have said I retired. My mistake was I said I was retiring at the time, and everyone like got heated. I had my last match at that time, and I remember I walked in the locker room and just had so much heat. And I was just like, this is fucking stupid. Like, this is high school, dude.
Yeah.
Like, we're grown men. What the fuck? I'm leaving for a little bit. Shut up, you know? And then I left for a few months. Then I went home, got right, came back. And then it was like 2 months or a month later, I showed up at the AWF Wild Card Rumble. And that was my way back in. But then Cookies and Cream started after that.
I was just going to ask you about Cookies and Cream and how that all... I didn't get to see too much of that. Just tell me a little bit about Cookies and Cream.
So basically, we got thrown together. Jay was about to retire. And we got thrown... And I could tell he was like fed up with shit and stuff at the time. He just... You know, I feel like sometimes, you know, some people that should get credit doesn't really get credit. And I think that's what was going on with him at that time. And he wanted to leave. And I just felt like if I tagged with him and I felt like I could maybe change his thoughts on it, which I did, because we ran for 3 years after that, or 2.5 years.
Hell of a run.
Yeah, we had like, we got thrown together for shits and giggles. And then next thing you know, we're having a 3-year run as Cookies and Cream. And I had fun. That was like the funnest time I had in wrestling, you know? And I didn't have to worry about backstage politics because Jay is like a really big household name out here. So I knew like just rolling with him, it's not like politics was gonna destroy me because I knew that having him on my side too, we can get what we want, you know? And I feel like we had a really solid run. And I had fun, man. I just had a good time. And that's all I care about. I want to have fun, dude. You know, if you're not having fun, don't do it. My mentors and influences.
Yeah,
okay, so I would say, like, I'll start with amateur wrestling. When I got into amateur wrestling, I had Coach Ward. He was the first guy to introduce me to amateur wrestling. Taught me all the basics, taught me everything. Then we had he had to leave, so then we had another coach jump in, Coach Boris. He was a mentor of me for years, and he was also my history teacher. His name was Steve Boris. And I just had a really tight relationship with him for 5 years because he coached me in 8th grade. So I knew him, and I had him for history. He was one of my real mentors. When I got into pro wrestling, I would have to say I was comfortable knowing that Graves was there, because I've wrestled with Graves and played sports with Graves, so it always made me feel good that I had a buddy close by that I grew up with that was always there in the locker room. So that made me feel good because I always looked up to Joe. Joe was a hard worker, and I always admired Joe's work. He was the type of guy that would stay after practice and run the hallways, figure eights, and I would stay with him and run. And that's when I became a better athlete. So I always not used Graves like that, but I always felt comfortable when he was in the locker room. And then I would say like a wrestling mentor would be Lawrence, because if there's any questions I have to ask and I know I'll get an honest answer, I'm gonna ask Lawrence, you know? But Jay also, I look up to Jay as an older brother. So like, I feel like Jay is like a older brother that I never had, because Jay is a really good person. Just in general, he helps people out. He's a great family man, and I like that. I need that in my life in general. But I would have to say it would be Lawrence, Graves, and Jay. You know, I would talk to Jay about stuff, but really Steve and Lawrence are the foundation of Arizona wrestling.
And I remember back when I was going to IZW shows in 2005, it was just I never knew much about indie wrestling at that time, and then IZW closed down and indie wrestling kind of just went for a while.
Yeah.
And then I think CWFA, where I met you, that's kind of where things kind of exploded again, I thought.
Yeah.
And
well, yeah, because you had like your own segment on that show.
Yes, Burning the Midnight Oil with Midnight Mike Malone. Yes.
I slapped the drink out of your hands.
You did.
I looked at that picture the other day. You have it on your Facebook.
It's one of my favorite pictures, and I remember.
That was one of my favorite interviews.
Yeah, and when you won, I think I'm trying to remember their secondary belt that they had. But you had won it, and you were one of my first interviews, and you made it.
The Honor Pro.
Yes, the Honor Pro title.
Yes.
Kind of like the television title.
Yeah. But then they randomly turned it into the heavyweight title because our heavyweight champ wasn't showing up to the shows. So they kiboshed his belt, basically, and they're like, we're making the Honor title look like a heavyweight title. And that's when I knew things were about to go downhill, which they did after that.
Yeah.
Because I was like, our champion's not even showing up to the shows, or he's like forgetting that we have shows. Like, what the hell?
Speaking of the wrestling forecast, at that time, I know it was exciting for a little bit, and then it kind of died down. and then I think AWF came around and some other lucha promotions and stuff like that. How would you say the state of the wrestling business indie circuit is today?
I think it's really healthy. I think like just real promotions, not like
fly-by-nights.
Yeah, or like as Jim Cornette would say, the mud shows.
Yeah.
If you're gonna throw a mud show, I mean that's your thing. But like, as long as it's it has good presentation and you have when someone knows what they're doing, the indie shows can be good. But if you're gonna throw something together in a parking lot and you don't even have
cash grab.
Yeah, and you don't have ring aprons on your ring, and you can see underneath the ring, that's garbage. You know, that looks like shit. You know, but I think it's healthy because I've never thought the wrestling business to thrive as much as it has. Like, so many people want to be wrestlers.
What advice would you give to someone that wants to be a wrestler right now?
Okay, the advice I usually never give advice. I usually keep quiet. I would say if you want to be a wrestler right now, make sure 100% you want to do it. You have to get in there. You have to train every day. You don't train 2 days a week, 3 days a week, and think that's training. You want to go in there, you got to go there every day, Monday through Friday. You got to work on just your conditioning, work on building your body. You know, you got to get yourself, and you got to make yourself a wrestling body. You know, you got to have the callous back and you know, you got to hit the gym and stuff like that. If you don't give it 100%, you're going to either hurt somebody or you're going to hurt yourself. And it could be a drastic tragedy. But if you're going to give 100% and you're going to go forward with training and you're going to do it, I say when you start playing the game like that, everything falls into place for you, you know.
I think there's a common misconception with getting in the wrestling business. I think they're going to wrestle in front of 20,000 fans and all that. I think people, the bright lights, sometimes you wrestle in front of 10 people.
10 people.
What's the smallest crowd you've ever wrestled in?
One.
One, really?
Yep, one person. It was in Flagstaff, and that's when I wrestled Joe. And what happened was I guess they didn't promote the show enough up there, and we showed up, and there was one person sitting in the bleachers. But because that one person was sitting in the bleachers, I made sure they got their money's worth.
How many matches was on the card?
5.
Wow.
And we were the main event, me and Graves.
Wow.
We did an Eastchester street fight.
Tell me what Pete is today.
So Pete
Who is
today.
Pete? Sorry.
Okay, so Pete today. Well, my name is Pete Nigro. I'm not Pete the Heat. Pete the Heat Petroselli is my wrestling name. But my life is just my pool business, my property management, my children, and my wrestling, and that's all I pretty much devote my life to.
What's their names and how old are they?
So I got Peter the Third, he's 7, and I got Evelyn Elizabeth, and she's 7. They're twins.
Beautiful kids. I mean, I saw them growing up. I'm like when they were barely born back in the CWFA Honor Pro days. So
they were running around here causing trouble. I had to yell at them before.
They're running a ruckus right now. Anyway, where do you see Pete in the next couple of years? What's the future hold for Pete?
So basically, you know, it's funny. I just thought about this the other day because I was like, I have to start thinking of my future and what I want to do. Basically, I'm gonna stick with wrestling. I'm having fun with it. Wrestling is something that I just will never leave. It will never leave me. I will never leave it. I love it. I've loved it since day one. And you know, it sucks because when people like to politic and try to kill your shit for you, I'm still here doing my thing. And I've had people try to do that, you know? So I know it's frustrating. And I've seen some people's careers get destroyed because of stupid shit, you know? So I'd like to continue with the wrestling, but I'd like to build my pool business. Eventually, I'd like to, I help out this guy, Brad, right now. But eventually, I'd like to kind of start cutting my days with him and doing my own pool stuff. And it's getting there, and that's a process too. But that's basically, my goal is to get about 100 pools in about 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
So I'm aiming to at least, I'll say the next 5 years.
Are you looking to stay in Arizona?
Yeah, I'll be here. I'll be here. My kids, you know, I can't go nowhere. My kids go to school here. Their mom lives here. I split my children with their mom. So I'm going nowhere. We do visit family, though, once, twice a year. So it's good. I get to take them home with me, and they get to see the family and stuff like that. So I always keep up with my New York family and my friends and everything like that. But Arizona, I love Arizona. This is my place where I have fun and do my thing, you know.
Excellent. We're going to wrap up with some word association.
Let's do it.
So you ready? Favorite wrestler?
Undertaker.
Arizona Wrestling.
Potential.
CWFA.
Old.
AWF.
Potential.
IZW.
Top notch right now.
Favorite arena.
Like massive arena or like little arena?
Both.
I got to go with the Westchester County Center, and I'll go with Sun Studio of Arizona. I like wrestling there.
Hulk Hogan.
My idol when I was a kid.
The Ultimate Warrior.
Inspiration.
Dark Side of the Ring.
Great.
All right. Well, Pete, I want to thank you for joining me.
Justin, thank you.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yes.
This has been Beyond the Top Rope. I'm Justin Freemyer, and we'll see you next time.